Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to cover an SAT practice test. As usual, if you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe and leave a comment to support the channel. Thank you very much. Okay, question 1 says what is 10% of 470? And we can use a calculator. So you could use, for 10% you could use 0.1 times 470. Or you could use for 10% if you like. I got the 0.1 because it's 10 divided by 100 times 470. Let me show you how to do those in the calculator. So we could do 0.1 times 470, which is 47, or 10 out of 100 times 470, and that's also 47. So the answer is 47, which is option B. Question 2 says 4x plus 6 equals 18. Which equation has the same solution as the given equation? So from 4x plus 6 equals 18, we have here a bunch of choices where it's 4x. So if you subtract 6, these are gone, and you would get 4x equals 12. Now it turns out x is 3, but that doesn't matter. 4x equals 12 is the answer, so the answer is C. Why is D not the answer? Well, if you solved D, you'd get 4x equals 3 and x is 3/4, which is not what this produces. This one produces x is 3. So it doesn't have the same solution. But C is. C works. Question 3. The total cost in dollars to rent a surfboard consists of a $25 service fee and a $10 per hour rental fee. A person rents a surfboard for T hours and intends to spend a maximum of 75 to rent the surfboard. Which inequality represents this situation? Maximum of 75, so we have to spend less than or equal to 75. Well, they all have that, so that doesn't help. And then we have $25 service fee, so that's one time. You won't pay it more than once. And then $10 for T hours, that's 10 times T. So the answer is D. It says the function g is defined by g of x equals x squared plus 9. For which value of x is g of x 25? So we would like to know when this turns to 25. So we can have 25 equals x squared plus 9. Or if you prefer, you could have written it as x squared plus 9 equals 25. Same thing. Either way. But we're going to subtract 9, and you get x squared is 16. So there are two possible values that would make this true. Let me do a little square root there, a little square root there. You get x is plus or minus 4. And so both positive 4 and negative 4 would have been fine. But we have positive 4, so that's our answer. Question 5. Each face of a fair 14-sided die is labeled with a different number from 1 through 14. So just imagine a 14-sided die and the numbers 1, 2, 3, all the way until 14. With a different number appearing in each face. If the die is rolled one time, what's the probability of rolling a 2? So the probability of rolling any specific number will be 1 out of 14. Because it's one outcome out of 14 possible outcomes. So the answer is number A. 6. A printer produces posters at a constant rate of 42 posters per minute. At what rate in posters per hour does the printer produce the posters? Now you could just do 42 times 60 and that is the answer. But I want to show you the logic. Of course this is the answer. I'll get the calculator for this. But why is this the case? Because if you have 42 posters per minute, and you would like to get it in terms of per hour, so you need minutes on top to cancel with this. What happens is 1 hour is 60 minutes. That's why it's 42 times 60 instead of dividing by 60. But in any case, 42 times 60, we just grab the calculator and we go 42 times 60, and the answer is 2,520. So that's the answer. 2,520. Okay, number 7. The function f is defined by the equation f of x equals 7x plus 2. What is the value of f of x when x is equal to 4? So they're asking for f of 4. F of 4 is 7 times 4 plus 2. You can use your calculator. You would get 28 plus 2, or 30. The final answer is 30. Number 8 says a teacher is creating an assignment with 70 points. The assignment will consist of questions worth 1 point and questions worth 3 points. Which equation represents this situation, where x represents the number of 1-point questions and y represents the number of 3-point questions? So if you have x representing the number of 1-point questions, we need 1 times x. And then for y, y represents the number of 3-point questions. So 3 points per question times y questions. Total points is written over here, 70 points. So this is 70. And this, you can clean it up a little bit. 1 times x is 1x, or simply x. 3 times y can be written as 3y, and 70. And you wind up with exactly, option D. Question 9 says right triangles LMN and PQR are similar, where L and M correspond to P and Q respectively. That means angle L is congruent to angle P, because L and P are corresponding. Also, M and Q are congruent to each other. Angle M congruent to angle Q. Okay. Angle M has a measure of 53 degrees. What's the measure of angle Q? Well, M and Q are congruent, so Q is also 53 degrees, so the answer is B. Question 10 says, we have a system of equations. The solution to the given system of equations is x comma y. What is the value of x? Okay, we have y equals negative 3x, so that would make it easier to use substitution. 4x plus y equals 15. We're going to plug this in to this y. So it becomes 4x plus something equals 15. Well, that's a y, but y is negative 3x. Let's remember, y is negative 3x, so this becomes negative 3x. 4x plus negative 3x is the same as 4x minus 3x equals 15. And 4x minus 3x simplifies to x equals 15. And since they're asking for x, we have an answer. It's option C. Question 11 has a scatter plot. Which of the following equations is the most appropriate linear model for the data shown in the scatter plot? So a linear model would be a line of best fit, roughly this kind of line, roughly speaking. But we do have 4 options. And one thing we note is that for linear equations, y equals mx plus b, this m here is the slope of the line, and this b here is the y-intercept, the place that it crosses the y-axis. Now, this rough line I've drawn in, you can see it's got a negative slope, so we need the slope to be negative. Here we have a negative slope, negative 1.9. Here's also negative, but these two are positive slopes, so we can rule out options C and D right now because they have positive slopes. Okay, the second part is the y-intercept. We see that the y-intercept here is a positive number. Our choices are positive 10.1 and negative 10.1. Well, negative 10.1 is nowhere near here. In fact, it's all the way down about 10 units below the origin. So it's not A. So the answer is B. Question number 12, the graph of y equals f of x is shown, where the function f is defined by f of x equals ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d. And a, b, c, and d are constants. So we have a cubic function. For how many values of x does f of x equals 0? And they're asking for real numbers. This whole test is based on real numbers. So they're asking how many values of x does f of x equals 0? F of x equals 0 is right here on the x-axis. That is y equals 0. When does it cross this particular line? Or how many times, really? Once here, a second time, a third time. So 3 altogether. So the answer is C. Question 13, Vivian bought party hats and cupcakes for $71. Each package of party hats costs $3 and each cupcake costs $1. If Vivian bought 10 packages of party hats, how many cupcakes did she buy? So when she bought these 10 packages of party hats, and each one's $3, that by itself is already $30. And you have 71, so 71 minus 30. You have $41 to spend on cupcakes. The cupcakes are $1 each. So 41 divided by 1, because they're $1 each. You still get 41. So she bought 41 cupcakes, and that's the answer, 41. Question 14. Z squared plus 10z minus 24 equals 0. What is one of the solutions to the given equation? Okay, we can solve this by factoring. Equals 0. We need a z here and a z here. Now, how do you make 24 or negative 24? Let's write down the factors of 24 or the ways to make 24. We know 1 times 24. You can use a 2, you can use a 3, and you can use a 4. 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. Your next line will be 6 times 4, which is repeating yourself. So these are the options. Now, we have to make one of them positive and one of them negative to get negative 24. So also we have to make a 10z. Now, you might think 4 and 6 can make 10. Well, the problem with 4 and 6 is we can make 10 if I'm allowed to use both positive. But I can't use both positive because I will never get negative 24. In fact, I have to make one positive and one negative. So that rules out 4 and 6. 3 and 8 will never make a 10. 1 and 24 will never make a 10. So 2 and 12 will make our 10. And how do we do that? We need a positive 12 and negative 2. And if you FOIL this out, you'll get 10z in the middle. Okay, just to demonstrate, z times z, z squared, minus 2z, plus 12z, minus 24. Z squared is there. This middle part will combine to make a plus 10z, and then negative 24 is there, and we have exactly what we started with. So the factoring is done correctly. That's one way to prove to yourself or convince yourself or check that the factoring was done correctly. So from here, we use the zero product property. We say z plus 12 could be 0, or z minus 2 could be 0. And if you solve this, you subtract 12, and you get z equals negative 12. Here you add 2, and you get z equals 2. So our answers are 2 or negative 12. It says what is one of the solutions. So you can pick either one. It doesn't matter. Just pick either one and they're correct. Question 15. Bacteria are growing in a liquid growth medium. There were 30,000 cells per milliliter during an initial observation. The number of cells per milliliter doubles every 3 hours. How many cells per milliliter will there be 15 hours after the initial observation? Okay, it's going to double every 3 hours. Well, we have 15 hours to do. So we do 15 divided by 3, and you get 5. This is 5 rounds of doubling. 5 doubles will take place. So we have to do 300,000 times 2, but 5 times. That's once, a second time, a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time. A much more convenient way to write this is 300,000 times 2 to the 5th. And for that, we can get the calculator out. Here we go. 300,000 times 2 to the 5th. And you get this number, which is 9.6 million. So the answer is option D. Let me write that down. 9600 9.6 million. The answer is D. Question 16 says, which expression is equivalent to 6x to the 8th y squared plus 12x squared y squared? Well, A and B, if you were to expand this, you get a monomial. A monomial times a monomial will give you a monomial. And here's what I mean. If you expand this out, you get 6 times 2, 12. X squared and x to the 6th gives you x to the 8th. You add the exponents and y squared. And you have one term. And the same with this, you're going to get a one-term answer. So these two will give you monomials. So A and B are out because we have a binomial to begin with. And what's going on with C and D? Well, the only difference between C and D is this term. X to the 6th versus x to the 8th. Everything else is the same. So let's go ahead and expand option C. When you expand this way, you get 6. X squared and x to the 6th, you get x to the 8th. And then y squared. And then plus the second term, but let's not worry about that. We'll just do this one right now. 6. X squared and x to the 4th give you x to the 6th, y squared, and you still have a second term. However, 6x 8y squared is correct here, and this one doesn't have an 8 over here. So D is wrong, and C is correct. If you follow through with the expansion, you would get 6 times 2, 12, and you still get x squared, y squared, because you have x squared, y squared here. So option C is correct. Okay, question 17. A neighborhood consists of a 2-hectare park and a 35-hectare residential area. The total number of trees in the neighborhood is 3,934. The equation 2x plus 35y equals 3,934 represents this situation. Which of the following is the best interpretation of x in this context? This x over here. Okay, now the choices are the average number of trees per hectare in the park, the average number of trees per hectare in the residential area, so the only difference is park versus residential area, the total number of trees in the park, and total number of trees in the residential area. Now there is a way to do this where you just look at everything very closely. So 2x plus 35y equals 3,934. So what we want to do is make sure that the units are all consistent. This particular item here has a unit of trees or tree. Okay, so all these had better have the same units. So let's look at what the 2 stands for. 2-hectare park. So this has a unit of hectare. Or hectares. Plural is not important. Hectare, hectare, tree, trees, it doesn't matter. I could just use tree. Okay. So in order for the entire 2x to have a unit of trees, this x needs to have a unit of trees per hectare. Then you would have a cancellation, and the entire 2x would have a unit of trees. The same with the 35. This 35 has a unit of hectare. It says you're a 35-hectare residential area, so this is hectare. So this y had better have trees per hectare in order for this entire item, in order for this to have a unit of trees. I can't fit it up here, but you can see what I'm doing. This has a unit of trees. That's trees. Now, so the x has a unit of trees per hectare. Okay, the average number of trees per hectare. The average number of trees per hectare. Perfect. So we're down to these two. The total number of trees, that's not right, and that's not right. So now we have to worry about whether x is for the park or the residential area. But it's next to the 2, and the 2 is a 2-hectare park, so it's the park answer, not the residential area. So the answer is A. Number 18, the graph shows the relationship between the number of shares of stock from company A, which is X, and the number of shares of stock from company B, which is Y. that Simone can purchase. Which equation could represent this relationship? Okay, this particular line, the first thing we note is that this line has a negative slope. You see it's going down when read left to right. It's going down, negative slope. Here we have y equals 8x plus 12. That's a positive slope of 8. So that's not it. Here's y equals 12x plus 8. Positive slope of 12, not it. But by that I mean this line has a slope of 8, and this line has a slope of 12, and these are positive numbers, so this can't be it. So it's down to one of these two. And so what we could do is just pick a point. So let's say I pick this point here, and that point over there that I'm pointing to is right there. It's 0, 40. Let me write it up here over here so you can see it better. 0, 40. Oops. A little neater. 0, 40. Okay. So one of these will go through 0, 40, and one of them won't. Oh, let's see what the other one looks like. So when I plug in 0 for x, I should get 40 for y. And I'll do b, so you can see 8 times 0 for x plus 12 times 40 for y. And you get 480. I'm just writing out the equation from b. That's what I'm doing. This is 0 plus 12 times 40. Let's use the calculator because you can use a calculator, so always good to use it. Okay. 8 times 0 plus 12 times 40. It's 480. Okay. That is correct. That works. So it should be B, but let's take a look at D. Let's use 12 times 0 plus 8 times 40. Let's check if that's 480. And let's get the calculator again. 12 times 0 plus 8 times 40. That's 320. So you wind up with 320 equals 480, which is false. So D is not it. This was option D. So the answer is B. Let's go to 19. Circle A has a radius of 3n, and circle B has a radius of 129n, where n is a positive constant. The area of circle B is how many times the area of circle A? For this question, we would like to know the area of a circle. So for that, let's look at the formula sheet. And you would see that the area of a circle is pi r squared right there. Area equals pi r squared. We would like to know the area of circle B is how many times the area of circle A. We would like to know this ratio. Area of circle B over area of circle A. Okay, it's pi radius squared over pi radius squared. Circle B has a radius of 129n, so this is 129n. Circle A has a radius of 3n, so this is 3n, the radius of circle A. Okay, in this ratio, the pi's will cancel. Pi divided by pi is 1. You wind up with 129 squared times n squared when you expand this. Let's keep in mind when you have two items, x, y raised to an exponent, this is the same as x to the m times y to the m. We know this from exponents. Okay. So that's the numerator, 129 squared times n squared over 3 squared times n squared equals. So the final answer would be whatever, n squared divided by n squared is 1. So we have just this. And for that, let's get the calculator. Let's make a fraction. 129 squared over 3 squared. And you get the answer of 1,849. So we have 1,849, which is option D. Question 20. The frequency table summarizes the 57 data values in a data set. What is the maximum data value in the data set? So the greatest data value that's what they're asking for. It's 14. But the way you would read this is the value of 6 occurs 3 times. The value of 7 occurs 3 times. The value of 8 occurs 8 times. If you wrote this out, it would be 3 6s, 3 7s, 8 8s, and so on, all the way down to 9 12s. So there'll be 12, the number 12 showing up 9 times in a row. There are no 13s, and then there are 6 14s. So the final end of the sequence will be, end of the data set will be 6 14s in a row. And that's the culmination of the entire data set. But all they're asking for is the largest number you see, which is the 14, which is this 14. It occurs 6 times, and that is the largest one out of all that we see. So the answer is simply 14. Question 20. A circle in the xy plane has a diameter with endpoints 2, 4 and 2, 14. An equation of this circle is x minus 2 squared plus y minus 9 squared equals r squared, where r is a positive constant. What is the value of r? So what you could do is to plug it in. That's one way. You plug in 2 and let's use 2 and 4 for this. So we would have 2 for the x. So here's what I'm going to do. Plus all this squared equals r squared. And what we're going to do is plug in 2 for the x and 4 for the y. That takes care of this and this. We still have the minus 2 here and the minus 9 here. Okay. Now, rather than doing all the math, you can put this in your calculator right away. So let's do all that. Let's put this in the calculator. Here we go. Okay, 2 minus 2, close it up, squared. I know it's 0, but let's just keep going. 4 minus 9, close it up, squared, and you get 25. So we have 25 equals r squared. Then you square root both sides, and you get r is plus or minus 5. Let's do that in the calculator real quick. Let's get that back out. Let's do the square root of 5. Sorry, the square root of 25. The principal square root of 25 is 5. And so you would do plus minus 5 in a normal equation. However, this r is a positive number, so we will not be using negative 5. We would just be using, what I want to do is maybe to show in this manner, r equals 5 or negative 5, and then we reject this. So this is the answer 5. So the answer you would put in would be 5. This is actually the equation of a circle, and r is a radius, and the radius is a positive number. But even if we did not know that this was the equation of a circle, we could just plug it in, and they tell us r is positive, so the answer is 5. I'd like to show you another way to do this problem. And that is this. So we have to know that r is a radius of a circle, and the center of the circle is 2, 9, but the endpoints are 2, 4 and 2, 14. So let's go with that. Let's see here. Let's put it over here. Here's 2. Let's say here's 4. Not drawn to scale. Here's 14. So here's 2, 4, and here's 2, 14. And the circle has these endpoints, so a circle will look like this if drawn properly. But this part here is the diameter, and from 14 to 4, you get 10. So this particular part here is the diameter. So the diameter is 10. We have to know that this is the equation of a circle, and r stands for the radius, and the radius is half the diameter. So 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So that's another way to get the answer of 5. Question 22. The measure of angle r is 2 pi over 3 radians. The measure of angle t is 5 pi over 12 radians greater than the measure of angle r. What is the measure of angle t in degrees? Okay, there are a few ways to go about this problem. So angle r is 2 pi over 3, and angle t is this much greater. So why don't we add them? So we'll do 2 pi over 3 plus 5 pi over 12. This will give you angle T because it's that much greater than R. Let's do that in the calculator. Okay, so let's go 2/3 plus a new fraction, 5/12. It tells you it's 13 over 12. So this becomes 13 pi over 12. And this is still in radians. Now we have to convert that to degrees. If you know how to convert to degrees immediately, that's great. I'll show you that it's also on the formula sheet. So let's take a look at the formula sheet. And over here in the formula sheet, it says the number of degrees of arc in a circle is 360. Number of radians of arc in a circle is 2 pi. That means 360 degrees is the same as 2 pi in radians. We'll use that. Let's go back to the question. So we would like to convert this to degrees, and we saw earlier that in the formula sheet that 2 pi is 360 degrees. A convenient way is to divide this by 2, and then you would get the relationship pi is 180 degrees. 360 divided by 2. Go ahead and use a calculator, and you'll see it's 180. So pi is 180. Okay, and then with that, we could do that this is 13 over 12, and instead of pi, you put in 180 degrees. That's one way to go about this, because pi is 180. Then you get 13 times 180 over 12. Let's use the calculator for that. Of course, you can see that the 13 over 12 is just more than 1, and 195 is just more than 1. Just slightly larger than 180. But let's use the calculator, of course. So here we go. 13 times 180 over 12, or the fraction way is better. Let's do that one. 13 times 180 over 12. You get 195. So the final answer is 195 degrees, which is option C. And the other way to do this is to do everything in degrees from the very beginning. Let's go over that method. Okay. So angle R is 2 pi over 3. And so angle R, or the measure of angle R, is, well, 2 pi over 3, what I want to do is convert that to degrees. So, so it's 2 pi over 3, and we saw that pi is 180. So 2 times 180 over 3. If you use a calculator for this, let's go ahead and do that. You'd get the fraction 2 times 180 over 3, and that's 120 degrees. So angle R is 120 degrees, okay? And let's do angle T, it's 5 pi over 12 greater. Well, what is 5 pi over 12? Let's convert that to degrees as well. So 5 pi over 12, and once again, pi is 180 degrees. You can put a degree symbol there, but 180 is what we need. And so you have this number. Calculator allows us to compute that. So you get 5 times 180 divided by 12. It is 75 degrees. So this is 75 degrees. Be careful, that's not the final answer. That is, angle T is 75 degrees more than 120. So the final step would still be 120 degrees plus 75 degrees. And you would get, let's use the calculator again, 120 plus 75, 195. So 195 degrees, and that is option C. And that's doing the entire problem with degrees from the very beginning. Question 23, a certain town has an area of 4.36 square miles. What is the area in square yards of this town? And 1 mile is 1,760 yards. Okay, so what I want to do is explain the reasoning behind everything. So let's take a square, and I'll draw an identical square here, but I'll label these a bit differently. So this is 1 mile and 1 mile. Now here I'll label the identical square in yards. 1 mile is 1,760 yards. So 1,760 yards, YD for yards, and this is also 1,760 yards. The area of this particular square is 1 times 1, which is 1 square mile, or 1 squared square mile. This square has an area of 1760 times 1760, which is 1760 squared square yards. Okay, now we know, even though 1 mile is 1760 yards, let me write that down. 1 mile is 1760 yards. We also know 1 square mile is not 1760. It's a very big number. It's 1760 times itself square yards. For information, it's not used in this problem, but if you go into the cubic, 1 cubic, I'll just use CU. 1 cubic mile would be 1760 cubic yards. Not used in this problem, but good to know. So we're going to use 1760 squared. Okay, so we have 4.36 square miles. So we're going to do 4.36 times 1760 squared. And that will be the final answer. Let's go get the calculator for this. So we have 4.36 times 1760 squared. And you get this answer. It's about 13 million, 13.5 million, but let's write that down. It's 13505,536. 13505,536, which matches option D, about 13.5 million square yards. Question 24, we're given a table. For line H, the table shows 3 values of x and their corresponding values of y. Line K, a completely different line, is the result of translating line H down 5 units in the xy plane. What is the x-intercept of line K? So this is line H we have over here. This whole thing is for line H. So what we want to do is get the equation of line H. We're given some points. These are coordinates. These are ordered pairs. This is 18, 130. This is 23, 160, and so on. And we just need 2 points. We don't really need the third one. We just need any 2. So I'll use the first 2. So I would like to get the slope of line H. And if you recall the formula, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's go ahead and put those in. This is x1 and y1, and this is x2 and y2. So we're going to do 160 minus 130, 160 minus 130 over 23 minus 18, 23 minus 18. Now, we can see this is 30 and this is 5, and so you get 30 over 5, which is 6. But I want to use the calculator because always use the calculator when you get a chance. So let's go ahead and put this in the calculator. Okay, so we have 160 minus 130 over 23 minus 18, and you get the answer of 6. So So the slope is 6. Okay. What about the rest of the equation? We know the slope. So we could use point slope, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And I'll use it with this 18 and 130. So let me go y minus 130 equals the slope of 6x minus 18. Now, what did I do with that? My x1, y1, I'm just going to use 18 and 130. 18, the x1, we will use 18, and the y1, we will use 130. And that's what I did here. This y1 became 130, this x1 became 18, and so that's how we have this equation in point slope form. Okay. And then we can keep going. You can distribute this. You can get 6x minus 6 times 18. Let's grab a calculator for that. So we have this over here. 6 times 18, which is 108. So 108. This is y minus 130. We're going to add 130 here and add 130 to this. So we have y equals 6x. Now 130 minus 108, or negative 108 plus 130. Let's go ahead and do that. Negative 108 plus 130. Oops, 130. It's 22, or if you like, you can do 130 minus 108. It's the same thing, you get 22. So let's go ahead and write this as 6x plus 22. Okay, well, this is actually line H. This is line H. Now, let me erase some stuff to clear some room. Perfect. Okay. Now we need line K. Line K is formed by this line, and then we have to move it down 5 units. So we take 6x plus 22. So you see y equals 6x plus 22. We move it down 5 units. So you get y equals 6x plus. You can do this in your calculator. You would get 17. 22 minus 5, 17. So this is line K. And they want the x-intercept. That's what happens when you plug in 0 for y. So let's go ahead and plug in 0 for y. They even tell you right there the y coordinate will be 0. So 0 equals 6x plus 17. You go minus 17, minus 17. You have negative 17 equals 6x. And you divide by 6, divide by 6. And let's write the result over here. X would be, actually, you can see the answer already. It's negative 17 over 6, because these will cancel. These 6 and 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. You have x equals negative 17 over 6. Negative 17 sixths. So the answer is D. Question 25. In the xy plane, the graph of the equation y equals minus x squared plus 9x minus 100 intersects the line y equals c at exactly 1 point. What is the value of c? Now, this particular graph is a parabola because it's got x squared there. It's a second degree graph, so it's a parabola. It starts with a negative leading coefficient, -1. So this graph will open down. It will look like this. Okay. Now, whatever c happens to be, now they give us a hint it's a negative number, but let's say I did not know that. Let me just draw a rough sketch of what the question's even asking. The question is saying if you had a parabola, y equals c could just be this line here that goes through the number c, and this line here would be y equals c. Well, we could just draw the line, but this is y equals c. Okay. This line would hit the parabola twice the way I drew it. Now, there's a way to hit the parabola once if you go right through the vertex. That's one intersection. And of course, let me extend this a bit. If you draw the line here, if C were here, you would not hit the parabola at all. You would have no intersection points. So what we have is a case of one intersection point. So what we have is that this line goes through the vertex. We have a line here. C is somewhere here. In truth, C is a negative number because they told us that in the options, but in reality, we wouldn't know that until we took a closer look at the problem. But this line here goes through the vertex of our parabola. It goes through the vertex of the parabola. This parabola has, the vertex has some coordinate and then C. Because the y coordinate of the vertex is this exact number. Any coordinate on this line, any y coordinate on this line is C, right? Even here, the y coordinate is C, and here the y coordinate is C. So this has some x coordinate that we don't know, and then some y coordinate. And they're asking us for what the value of this is. So let's go find the vertex of this particular parabola. If you recall, the way you find the vertex is x equals negative b over 2a. And that's the x coordinate of the vertex. And in this particular case, if you look at this equation, the a is -1 right there next to the x squared. The b is 9, the b is positive 9, and the c is -100. We don't use that in this formula. We just need the a and the b. So let's go ahead and do that. X equals, now it's negative b over 2a. Okay, let's be very careful. The b is 9, so that goes here. And the a is -1, so that goes here. This ends up being -9 over -2, or simply 9 over 2. Okay, but that is this x coordinate, 9 over 2. We need the y coordinate, which is what happens when you plug in 9/2 into the original equation. So for that, let's get the calculator out. So we have negative x squared, but x is 9 over 2. So let's go ahead and put that in. 9 over 2 squared plus 9x, and again, x is 9 over 2. So you have 9 over 2 minus 100. Negative x squared plus 9x minus 100, where the x coordinate we will be using is 9/2, 9 over 2. And you get an answer of negative 319 over 4. So this coordinate here is negative 319 over 4, which is option C. So the answer is C. Question 26. 2x plus 3y equals 7. 10x plus 15y equals 35. For each real number r, which of the following points lies on the graph of each equation in the xy plane for the given system? Okay, so what we can do is we can solve this first. So what I want to do is multiply the first equation. Let's use elimination. The first equation, sometimes they write it like that. I'm going to multiply by 5, so this will turn to 10x. But let's use -5 so we can get the opposite sign. And sometimes they write it like that. Or you could do it a little neater, would be like that. This times -5, and this times -5. Careful, don't put -5 or subtract 5. 7 subtract 5 is 2, but we're gonna multiply by -5. Okay, -5 times all that, -5 times all that. -5 times 2x, you get -10x. -5 times 3y is -15y. And 7 times -5 is -35. That's the first equation. Let's write the second one down. 10x plus 15y equals 35. This plus this is 0. This goes to 0. And this goes to 0. You have 0 equals 0. This is a situation of an infinite number of solutions. What we have is a case of coincident lines. These two lines are simply overlapping. You know, it's one line on top of the other. They are the same line, identical line, coincident lines. Okay. So every point on the line is a solution. It's got an infinite number of solutions, but the solutions are on the line, not just some random point. It's any point on the line. Okay, so now we need to write down these lines. Let's do them y in terms of x and x in terms of y. I'll work with the first line. The second line is the same line. If you divide this by 5, you get the first line anyway. So let's write this down. 2x plus 3y equals 7. 2x plus 3y equals 7. I'll do it once here. I'll solve for y. And later on, I'll solve for x. So to solve for y, you subtract 2x. Subtract 2x. You'd get 3y equals negative 2x plus 7. This is negative 2x plus 7. There's a positive 7 and a negative 2x. And you divide by 3, and divide by 3, and divide by 3, and you would get y equals negative 2/3 x plus 7/3. Let's hold on to that real quick. Now, let's do it again. 2x plus 3y equals 7. This time, we will solve for x. Okay, so we subtract 3y. You're trying to isolate the x. Subtract 3y, you get 2x equals negative 3y plus 7. And you divide by 2, divide by 2, divide everything by 2. X equals negative 3/2 y plus 7/2. This is x in terms of y. Okay, so now they're saying for each real number r, which of the following points lies on the graph of each equation? Okay. So basically, they're saying if y stood for r, then over here, if y stood for r, x in terms of r would look like that. And if x stood for r, and it'll be clear when we look at the options. So this one says r over 5 plus 7, negative r over 5 plus 35. Let's come back to that. Here it says, okay, if your y coordinate were something, then this would be the x coordinate in terms of that. And let's look at that. X equals negative 3/2 y plus 7/2. Ooh, that looks good. That's actually the answer. That matches exactly. It's saying for any given y value that you have, if this was some number, let's say this were r, then you would have negative 3/2 r plus 7/2, and that's exactly what they wrote over here. This is the same as negative 3/2 r. Okay. Let's look at this one. If x were some number, what's y in terms of that? This is very close. We would like negative 2/3. If this had a negative sign, then this would be the answer, actually. C would be correct. But the way it's written, because it's positive 2/3 r, and we have a negative 2/3, it's very close, but it's not correct. The 7/3 matches correctly. Everything matches except this doesn't have a negative sign there, so this is wrong. And this is 3/2, negative 3/2. They had this backwards. It's if they switch to 2 and 3 and you have 2 on top, 3 on the bottom, then D would be correct. So that's why D doesn't work. So the answer is B, because it fits exactly what we have written over here. The perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 624 centimeters. The height of this triangle is k√3 centimeters, where k is a constant. What is the value of k? Okay. Let's draw an equilateral triangle. Now, an equilateral triangle, because the angles are all congruent, we will do 180 divided by 3, which is 60. You can use your calculator. And so you find out that this is 60 degrees, and this is 60 degrees, and this is 60 degrees. Okay, all good. Now we want the height of this triangle. So I'm going to drop a height down. So I'm going to erase that real quick because I'm going to put a line right through. So here's the height of the triangle. Okay, that would bisect this angle. So now you would have 30 on this side and 30 on this side. What you have is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. You have one here and one here, but you have 30, 60, 90 triangles to deal with. And by the way, the height of the triangle is k√3. So this particular height is k√3. This height from the length from here to here, the bottom. Boom, that is k√3. This perimeter is 624. Why don't we find the length of each side? So 624 divide by 3. Let's use a calculator. And I'll also do the 180 divided by 60, just for completeness. 180 divided by 60. Sorry, divided by 3 to get 60. So this shows you that each angle is 60. Now we want 624 divided by 3, which is 208. So this tells us that each of these sides is 208 for this side and 208 for this side. The bottom side all the way across is 208, just like the other two sides. But let's cut it in half because we have cut it in half in this picture. Oh, this was 208. Okay, so let's cut that in half. Let's grab the calculator. Let's go divide by 2. 104. So this is 104, 104, and this part is 104. By that I mean, let me clear this up. Let's do a better job of clearing it up. Okay. This distance is 104, and this distance is 104. Okay, and that's k root 3. So we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. If you have this memorized, great. They also provide in a formula sheet. Let's go take a look. They have this 30, 60, 90 triangle right over here. Let me copy that down. Let's draw the triangle over here. This is the 30 and 60. This is just what the picture had in the formula sheet. This is 2x, this is x, this is x root 3. Let's rotate it so we can see this picture better. So this came from the formula sheet. So let's just draw it again over here this way. I'll make this the 30. I'll make this the 60. And you can see 2x is the hypotenuse. So let's go 2x. X root 3 is between the 30 and the 90. That's over here, x root 3. And x is between the 90-degree angle and the 60-degree angle, which is over here, x. So this matches this triangle exactly. You can see it's 60, 30. And so what we have here is a case of, well, whatever this is, this has to be double of that, and this has to be that number times root 3. So if x were 104, let's clear some stuff out. If this were 104, as our picture seems to suggest, right, then you would expect this to be 2 times 104, which is 208, which actually matches the picture also. And finally, you would expect this to be 104 times root 3. Okay, so this k root 3 is actually 104 root 3. So now we have this equation, k root 3 equals 104 root 3. You can solve it by observation. You say, well, k root 3 equals 104 root 3. I'm just going to compare and say k is 104. Or you can actually solve the equation. You just divide by root 3 and divide by root 3. And these will cancel, and these will cancel, and you get k is 104. What's the value of k? The final answer is 104. Thank you for watching. If you found the video helpful, please like and subscribe, and also leave a comment in the comment section. And I really appreciate your support. Thank you very much.